Hello guys, and welcome to another video by Muscle Mutant. This video is going to be about William Bonac versus Roelly Winklaar at the 2018 Arnold Classic. William Bonac rightfully won the competition, and Roelly Winklaar was placed fourth after Dexter Jackson, who was placed second, and Cedric McMillan, who was placed third. Before we get started, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that these pictures are taken from the website teamandro.com. Team Andro is one of the websites I use as a source for the material used in my videos, for the pictures I use in my videos, but it is not the only website I use or resort to. There are other websites such as musculardevelopment.com, muscletime.com, and ambal.ru. All these websites are great and useful for bodybuilding related issues. Now let's get started. Roelly Winklaar weighs around 285 pounds, while William Bonac weighs around 225 pounds, which means that Roelly is about 60 pounds heavier. And this is clear in the pictures. Now, when it comes to the front double biceps, we can easily see that William Bonac hits a great pose. His biceps look really great, and the peak in the biceps is really awesome. They perfectly connect with his chest, his triceps, and his explosive forearms. Granted, he is not wide in the chest and the lats area, yet his chest is complete, aesthetic, highly defined, and the sweep in his lats is really awesome. His lats perfectly connect with his midsection, and his midsection doesn't suffer any symptoms of the bubble gut or the bloated stomach. His lower section is great as well. As I've previously mentioned in my videos, William Bonac managed to combine between the aesthetics and the size in this important competition, especially in his lower section. In the wheel section, he added size and he maintained the conditioning at the same time. We can easily notice how huge his wheels are and how conditioned they are. Highly defined, separated, and highly striated as well. Not to forget about his calves, which are really explosive, highly defined, and very well conditioned. On the other hand, we have Mr. Roelly Winklaar, who was placed fourth. Roelly Winklaar, in my opinion, is a muscles monster. He is a mountain of muscles, but at the expense of the aesthetics. At the expense of the aesthetics. In my humble opinion, he is not as aesthetic as William Bonac is, and he is not as conditioned as William Bonac is. Granted, he is way more huge. I mean, look at the size of his arms, look at the width of his chest and lats, but he lacks the aesthetics, and he is not as conditioned. Granted, his midsection looks tight. He doesn't have any symptom of the bubble gut he suffered from in the past. His wheels are huge as well, but in my opinion, not as aesthetic as those of William Bonac. Yes, they are more huge, but not as aesthetic. In general, his conditioning was not on at the 2018 Arnold Classic, and I believe that if he managed to achieve a better conditioning, he would have placed higher. Maybe he would have been placed third instead of Cedric McMillan, but this is just my opinion. You may disagree. So in general, a very good pose for Mr. William Bonac, who easily stomps when it comes to the conditioning, to the cut physique, and to the crisp look over Roelly Winklaar, without forgetting that William Bonac managed to combine between the size and the aesthetics, especially in his legs or lower section. namely the quads. Let's move on. The front lat spread. We can easily see that William Bonac is on another level when it comes to the conditioning. He is way more conditioned, he is way more cut, and he has this crisp look over Roelly Winklaar, who has a problem with water retention at the 2018 Arnold Classic. Just look at the form or the shape of William Bonac's shoulders. They are very well rounded, explosive, and huge, and at the same time they are highly defined and highly striated. Look at the size of his arms at the peak in his biceps and the explosive forearms. Look at his rounded chest, the striations in his chest and the lower chest, the line that separates the chest from the lats. I mean, like, it's really awesome, and it shows how conditioned he was at the 2018 Arnold Classic. His lats look awesome, granted not wide, but awesome and complete and perfectly connects with his midsection, and his wheels again and again look awesome and mind-blowing. He managed to combine size and conditioning at the same time. Just name it. Look at the separation, the separation among the muscular groups, the striations in his outer quads, and of course his awesome calves as well. Roelly Winklaar, on the other hand, looks huge, but that's all about it. He's huge, but he lacks the aesthetics and he lacks the conditioning. His shoulders are huge, rounded, and granted he possesses among the greatest shoulders in bodybuilding history, along with Kevin Levrone and Phil Heath, Marcus Rule as well. Yes, Roelly Winklaar is easily on this list. However, he lacks the conditioning. That's why he doesn't look as great as he should. His chest looks okay, granted wider than that of Bonac, but definitely not as conditioned. His forearms look really amazing, because Roelly Winklaar is also known for having among the greatest forearms in bodybuilding history, along with Phil Heath and Lee Priest. His midsection looks flattened, no separations, no cuts, nothing at all. The conditioning is zero, actually. There is nothing special about his conditioning, and you feel like he looks like an amateur in comparison to William Bonac in this pose when it comes to the conditioning. His lower section, his wheels are huge, granted, are more huge than those of William Bonac, yet less conditioned, way less conditioned. Definitely William Bonac stomps in this pose due to his overall conditioning and overall definition and way more aesthetic physique. Let's move on. Here comes the side chest. Just take a look at William Bonac's side chest. The shoulders look awesome, complete, rounded, and shredded. His arms look really great. Look at his triceps and the peak in his biceps. Look at the explosive forearms, the fully rounded, highly striated chest, and the definition in his chest and the separation between the chest and his midsection. His midsection looks really tight, no symptoms of bubble gut whatsoever, and his wheels look awesome. The glutes, the separation between the quads and the hamstrings. Just all in all, William Bonac looks really awesome in this pose. On the other hand, we have Mr. Roelly Winklaar. Granted, his shoulders look really awesome in this pose. Look at the size of his shoulders. His shoulders are really huge. His arms are huge as well. His forearms, his chest. Yes, there are striations in his chest in this pose, and his midsection looks tight. He doesn't have symptoms of bubble gut. His wheels are huge as well. Look at his hamstrings. However, he severely lacks conditioning. Severely lacks conditioning in his arms, in his wheels, in his glutes. just the conditioning is not there. There is no conditioning. William Bonac stomps in conditioning and overall aesthetics. Another pose that definitely goes to William Bonac over Roelly Winklaar. Let's move on. Here we have the back shots with the back double biceps. The back double biceps looks great for Mr. William Bonac. Look at his rounded and highly defined striated shoulders. Look at the peak in his biceps and the separation between the biceps and the triceps. Look at the back. Look at the traps, the striations and the veins in his traps, and the rear shoulders, which perfectly connect with his upper lats, and his lower back as well looks really awesome in this shot. His highly striated glutes, his huge highly striated glutes, which remind you with the glutes of the greatest Ronnie Coleman. His wheels look awesome, and his hamstrings are on another level. Highly striated, defined, and perfectly connect with his quads, and of course his calves look really awesome. On the other hand, we have Mr. Roelly Winklaar, who has among the greatest shoulders in bodybuilding history. His shoulders look really huge, almost double the size of William Bonac's shoulders. His arms as well, his arms are really huge. Look at the peak in the biceps, look at the explosive and huge forearms. The rear shoulders look fine. I am not a huge fan of his traps. His traps are not aesthetic, and his lower traps almost vanish. Actually, you can't see his lower traps. And Roelly Winklaar, has always been having trouble, a serious problem with his lower back. You don't see any line whatsoever in his lower back. It's completely flattened in comparison with that of William Bonac, for example. His lower section, his glutes are huge, but they lack the definition, they lack the striations that William Bonac has. His wheels, his legs are huge as well. I mean, the thighs are huge, and the hamstring is there, but you can't see any line whatsoever. He lacks the conditioning, which is responsible for showing the lines, showing the cuts. But as we can see here, Roelly Winklaar lacks the necessary conditioning to match the likes of William Bonac. So another pose in which William Bonac stomps Roelly Winklaar. Let's move on. Here comes the lat spread. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, William Bonac does not hit a great lat spread. Granted, when it comes to the back double biceps, his back looks really great with all the lines, with all the definition in there, with his great traps, striations, veins, and his rear shoulders perfectly connect with his lats. This is approved. But when it comes to the lat spread, you feel that William Bonac loses all the lines, all the definitions, and becomes rather flattened, and he even loses the pumps in his rear shoulders, which clearly appear in his back double biceps. But when he hits the lat spread, he loses all that. And we saw that clearly in a comparison with Phil Heath. When Phil Heath, for example, hits the lat spread, he completely overwhelms William Bonac, and this is a problem when it comes to this pose in specific. So in comparison with Roelly Winklaar, you can easily see that Roelly Winklaar wins this pose, at least when it comes to his lats. Look at his lat spread. Look at the width in his lats and how dense they are. Look at his traps in this pose. Granted, his traps did not look well when he was hitting the back double biceps, but they look like very huge here. Definitely, he lacks the conditioning, so he can't show more details, he can't show more lines or striations because he doesn't have the necessary conditioning to show that. However, the size, the sheer size in his lats is really noticeable. Is really noticeable over that of Mr. William Bonac, especially in his shoulders, his lats, and his traps. However, when it comes to the wheels, to the lower section, William Bonac stomps again with the high definition, with the conditioning, with the striations in his glutes area, in his hamstrings, and the way they connect with the quads. So overall, the lower section goes to William Bonac, but the upper section, when it comes to the width and when it comes to the density of the lats, then this definitely goes to Roelly Winklaar, without forgetting the sheer size of Roelly Winklaar's arms and forearms in this pose. Let's move on. Here comes the side triceps. The side triceps between these two gentlemen looks really awesome, as William Bonac has great triceps, but on the other hand, Roelly Winklaar has among the greatest triceps in bodybuilding history, if not the greatest of all, along with Mr. Lee Priest in his prime. William Bonac has a great pose. He hits the pose perfectly. His shoulders look awesome. His chest is rounded, and his midsection looks tight. His arms look really huge, and I'm talking about the whole package of the arms, the triceps, the biceps, and the forearms. His lower section looks really awesome as well. The glutes, the wheels, the hamstrings, and the quads, and the line that separates between them. Look at his calves. His calves look really awesome, explosive, huge, and highly conditioned with all these veins in there. On the other hand, we have Mr. Roelly Winklaar. He looks truly awesome in this pose. Look at his triceps. Look at the triceps. I don't know, is this like a horseshoe triceps? We have to find a new definition for Roelly Winklaar's triceps. His triceps look really awesome. His forearms as well. The shoulders look huge and defined in this pose. We can see the striations in his chest, and above all, we can see that he doesn't have any symptoms of bubble gut in this pose. His midsection looks really great, and his wheels look really huge. Look at the hamstrings. Look at the pump in his hamstrings. His wheels are really huge. So all in all, the side triceps pose is great for them both, but I have to go with Roelly Winklaar in this pose just because he has unbelievable triceps. So in my humble opinion, this pose goes to Roelly Winklaar. Let's move on. Here comes the abs and thighs. They both look great in this pose. William Bonac definition is high, and his conditioning is great. Look at the striations in his chest, at his shoulders, the size of the arms, the peak in the biceps, the explosive forearms. Look at his midsection. He doesn't have any problem with the bubble gut, yet I believe, and I repeat that again, I think he should work more on the water retention in his midsection, but that's all about it. Look at his wheels, look at the quads. The size and the conditioning of William Bonac quads is unbelievable. Look at the size and the striations in the outer quads, and the calves as well. His calves are great. He must be genetically gifted in his calves and forearms. Overall, a great pose for Mr. William Bonac. On the other hand, We have Mr. Roelly Winklaar, who the mountain of muscles in this pose, which needs aesthetics over size. His midsection looks great. He doesn't have bubble gut whatsoever with all the cuts and the separation. We can see the six-pack in there. His lats connect perfectly with his midsection. His chest looks huge, rounded and striated as well. Look at the size of Roelly Winklaar's shoulders. They look like double the size of William Bonac's shoulders, and this is no surprise because Roelly Winklaar has among the greatest shoulders in bodybuilding's history. The size of the arms and the forearms. Look at the wheels, the size of the wheels. We can, surprisingly enough, in this pose, Roelly Winklaar can show striations in his outer quads. Yet, in my humble opinion, he still lacks conditioning, and he is not as aesthetic as William Bonac. So overall, I would give this pose to Mr. William Bonac. Let's move on. Here comes the most muscular pose, the most muscular. Roelly Winklaar hits among the greatest, most muscular poses in current bodybuilding. Let's start with William Bonac here. William looks awesome in this pose. His traps look great. His shoulders look great. Very explosive, highly striated, defined, and rounded. Look at the size of his arms and the peak in his biceps. Look at the forearms. Look at the rounded, complete, and highly striated chest. His wheels look awesome as well. He managed to combine size and conditioning in his wheels with all the striations in his outer quads. On the other hand, we have Mr. Roelly Winklaar, who shows great traps in this pose, better than the traps from the back shots. Look at the size of his shoulders, the explosive shoulders. His shoulders are like double the size of William Bonac's shoulders. Look at the size of his arms, the triceps, the biceps, and the forearms. Look like they are like double the size of William Bonac's arms. Look at his chest, his midsection. His midsection in this pose in specific looks a little bit bloated, right? Looks a little bit bloated. His wheels look huge, great, with all the muscular departments in there, but as I've mentioned and stated before, he lacks the conditioning and he lacks the aesthetic. I mean, if we want to talk about aesthetics, then William Bonac is on another level. He easily stomps Roelly Winklaar when it comes to the aesthetics. I mean, look at the shape of both wheels and tell me, who do you prefer? Definitely you would go with William Bonac. Look at the shape of his muscles. It is about the genetics. I don't think that Roelly Winklaar can do anything to fix this problem, the problem of aesthetics. It is just his genetics. He's a mountain of muscles. He's a muscles monster, but he is not into aesthetics. Sorry for that. When it comes to aesthetics, he's just like off, okay? I mean, no aesthetics at all. That's why I prefer the physiques of William Bonac, of Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray in their prime, over the muscles monsters such as Roelly Winklaar, Marcus Rule, or Paul Dillette, for example. So overall, I would give this pose to Mr. William Bonac as well over Roelly Winklaar. William Bonac rightfully won this competition, and Roelly Winklaar was placed 4th after Dexter Jackson, who was placed 2nd, and Cedric McMillan, who was placed 3rd. That was all for this video. Hope you liked the analysis. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to share. Have a nice one.